He had this zest, he was full of life, he was charismatic, he was funny and friendly, and he just, he was giving and loving and kind. He just had this passion for life.
Alex Smith was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 23 years old.
There's a big learning curve, a diagnosis like that. But he just rolled with it. He was like, well, this is what I have to do. So this is my new life, and this is what I'm gonna have to make the best of it. I'm not gonna let this diagnosis change my life. I'm not gonna let it rule my life. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna handle it, and I'm going to, I'm gonna control my diabetes. It's not gonna control me.
A month after turning 26, Alec was dead.
It was really difficult to wrap my head around the fact that he had no insulin, and to figure out, to put the pieces together and to figure out why he didn't have any insulin made me extremely angry.
Alec died in Minneapolis, in the US state of Minnesota, less than a month after coming off Nicole's medical insurance policy. In an attempt to save money, he was rationing his insulin, using less than he needed to try and make it through to his next paycheck. He kept that a secret from his friends and family. He died alone in his apartment 3 days before payday. The insulin pen he used to give himself shots was empty.
He lasted 26 days without my insurance. He lasted probably 2 days without insulin. And we had no idea that insulin was this expensive until there was not that insurance there to help cover the majority of the cost.
Alec's story has become a catalyst for people diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. Without insulin, blood sugar increases and cannot be delivered to the muscles and brain where it is needed to provide the body with energy. There is no cure, but insulin medication helps manage the condition. Minnesota lawmakers recently attempted to introduce the Alex Smith Emergency Insulin Act. That would have brought increased access to emergency insulin for diabetes sufferers. Although that failed, politicians there continued to push for affordable insulin coverage. Lori Halverson is a member of the Minnesota House of Representatives and a type 1 diabetic.
Nicole's a hero, but she's taken the worst day of her life and turned it into a rallying cry to make sure that other people don't go through what she went through. We need people to have to really look in the face of a mother who lost their child and say this isn't worth working on. You can't do it. We're a captive audience. We have to buy this drug. We don't have a choice.
Across Minneapolis, Quinn Nystrom is preparing for a road trip. Nystrom also has type 1 diabetes and has become an advocate for affordable insulin.
For me, when I was first diagnosed back in the 90s, a vial of insulin cost me $20. A vial today, I went and picked up my insulin prescription. That retails for $340 a vial. I go through 2 to 3 vials a month. So how are normal, everyday working class people in this country supposed to afford to keep themselves alive? And if you don't take insulin, you're going to die very quickly.
Nystrom is organising a 1,300-kilometre journey that will take her and around a dozen others who have the condition to London, Ontario in Canada, the birthplace of insulin.
Insulin was discovered 99 years ago in London, Ontario, the place that we're traveling to. One of the inventors was Dr. Banting. When insulin was discovered, Dr. Banting said, "This does not belong to me, it belongs to the world." And he sold his patent for $1. How did we get from going from 99 years ago, where the inventor of insulin sold his patent for $1 because he did not believe it should be up for profit? How have we seen the price get up to what it is today?
Nystrom has already undertaken a similar trip and was shocked to discover that the price of insulin in Canada is a tenth of that in the US.
There's no reason that in the United States we should be paying 10 times the price for the same exact product that Canada sells. I would not be doing this if people were not dying. And they're literally hours from the border.
The price of insulin has increased 10 to 12% per year for 20 years. So now it's about 200 to 300% greater than it was.
Daniel Touchot is the Associate Professor of Pharmacy Systems, Outcomes and Policy at the University of Illinois at Chicago. The reasons for the sharp increase in insulin costs are complicated, but one factor is a lack of government regulation, with drug companies able to set their own price for medicines.
The companies that manufacture insulin, they're going to do what companies do. They look to maximize their profits for their shareholders. And that's what a good company should be doing. The only way you can counteract that would be to increase competition. Then the market wouldn't bear such a high price. Or to exert price controls in some way, which is, in a way, the way other countries have handled this issue.
Early morning, and the group are ready for their 1,300-kilometre journey. The trip has two goals. For some, it's simply to buy more affordable insulin in Canada. But the overriding purpose for organisers to draw attention to the rising cost of the life-saving drug.
You can see why in America today, 1 in 4 Americans are rationing their insulin because they cannot afford it.
Although not a diabetes sufferer herself, Nicole was among those to undertake the trip.
There's still a certain level of guilt that I carry with me because his death was preventable. He shouldn't have died. And so I always can carry a certain level of guilt with me. But yeah, if I had known that I wouldn't have been thrown in jail for bringing insulin back home, I would have swam the entire length of Lake Superior to reach Canada if I had to bring him back insulin.
Yeah, and Traceba in like
As the long journey begins, there is a setback for organiser Quinn Nystrom. She finds out that the pharmacies in Ontario are concerned about the media coverage of the trip.
We pretty much called every single pharmacy in London. Every single one said no to letting cameras in. Their legal teams got involved. They're afraid of the repercussions from pharmaceutical companies. They are afraid of them artificially short supplying insulin.
The journey is long, taking in the US states of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. Following a change of bus along the way, the group make protest signs. In the US, more than 30 million people are estimated to have either type 1 or type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, in which the pancreas produces some insulin but the body resists it, also requires constant management. Globally, 415 million people currently live with diabetes, a number that is expected to climb. As night falls, the group cross into Canada. It has been a long journey, and in the morning they hope to visit a pharmacy and purchase insulin at a tenth of the US price. As the bus approaches a Walmart, there is an excitement that the key part of the mission is about to be achieved. The group will pick up the insulin at a pharmacy inside a Walmart store. Some 20 minutes after arriving, the group emerge. All of them clutching new prescriptions of insulin.
These vials of insulin in America would have cost me $3,060 retail price. That's in US dollars. Today, I paid $243. It is staggering how much more money it is in America. You can see why 1 in 4 Americans are rationing their insulin because they can't afford it.
Another to join the party is politician John Kennedy, who is also a type 1 diabetic.
I don't know what to say other than I was tingly when I got my insulin, and when I went to pay the bill, I spent $25 US. Now, why the hell is that? Why? It's crazy to me. So I am as excited as I am to save some money. I am devastated to know that affordable insulin is just available to us across the border, a 5-hour drive, right? Why does it have to be that way?
There are currently 3 manufacturers of insulins available in the United States, and also there's barriers to the entry of new products. The government does what it can to lower the price of insulin, but that often requires legislation, and there is not a lot of agreement on what that legislation should look like. And so no one's really looking out so much for the patients themselves, whose prices, out-of-pocket costs, have gone up dramatically.
The cost of insulin in the United States has doubled in the last 5 years.
This vial of insulin costs $340 in 2019 retail price. This is Novolog, and the Canadian version is called Novo Rapid. It's the same manufacturer. It's actually made in the same laboratory. So it's the same thing. It's insulin. It does the same thing. It's short-acting insulin. But how come you can buy it here for $30, but back home it's $340?
The group then visit Banting House. It was here in 1920 that Frederick Banting woke in the middle of the night with the idea that led to the discovery of insulin.
We got a second life after a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes because insulin had been discovered right here in Canada, right here at a publicly funded university in Toronto. We are so grateful. The 7.5 million Americans who are dependent on insulin, we got life because of that. Sadly though, 99 years later, a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes in 2019 in America is now becoming a death sentence once again because people cannot afford a vial of insulin.
For Nicole, the trip was a reminder that her son's death was entirely preventable.
The last time I saw my son was 2 years ago in 2 days. And the last time I saw him, I was putting him in a casket to never see him again. And the only reason he is not here today is because he could not afford his insulin. It was priced out of reach, and he paid for it with his life. And I am up here demanding justice for his death.
Alex Smith's story has brought focus to an issue that is in desperate need of action, not just in Minnesota, but across the US and around the world.